Continuing here, yeah, what we're looking for is to be content, to be at peace with one another, to have harmony, and business affairs are very important to that. The economic welfare of your fellow human being, and I don't want to compare America to any other nation. I want to just compare America to America, okay, and what we've had in history. And we've had a lot more of an egalitarian nation where there was a lot more opportunity for everybody to be prosperous than we have today. That's a matter of fact. And that to me is not okay. So I don't want to compare America and say, well, it's still the best house in a bad neighborhood. Well, in that sense, it's true. But that's no reason to accept this moving of the Overton window. And that is a big problem. That's something that we have been doing. We've been tolerating the moving of this Overton window in the social, economic, political realm. And it's not okay. And the people running the show, they do not want to see this thing turn around. Okay, they do not want to see a rising standard of living. Okay, that's the last thing they want to see because that shows that they would be losing. That would be evidence to point to. If we saw the dollar going up in worth, it's that simple. That would cause a rising tide of prosperity across the board. That would rise our standard of living, right, automatically with a reduced cost of living. So we've got to do this thing in reverse. And yeah, it might seem painful for some people, but just because the worth of your house goes down, okay, the rent went down, okay, accordingly, then it causes a chain reaction in reverse. This is what we need to look. We need to start this ball rolling, get the train on that track, get the ship turned in that direction. And it's really not painful. Okay, that you've just been trained that's painful. If your numbers are going down, you think it's a bad thing, but it doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean you're getting less wealthy. Okay, really, even if you measure it with your dollars, if they're becoming worth more and you can buy more stuff, okay, even with less dollars, how does that hurt anybody? You see, so I'm a kind of guy. I'm on everybody's side. We can do this thing very painlessly if we understand the issues, but we fundamentally got to understand the issues. And that same business I brought up in the beginning of the video about the consternation that I feel about just having to face reality on human organic terms, dealing with oppressive heat, with the diseases and the death and all the problems we all have to face that are across the board for all of us, natural disasters, okay, all this stuff, the accidents, the frail human atomic structure, all this stuff is across the board. We all have to face it. And it does bring a certain degree of consternation. And I understand that. We should all understand the origins of that and don't blame God. Nothing bad is ever God's fault. Never. God's name is going to be 100% wholly vindicated. Okay, everybody's going to understand it's not God's fault. We did this to ourselves with free will. We chose the wrong thing. It got in our DNA. So it's taken all this time to play itself out. You don't just get rid of the knowledge of good and evil that easy. It takes these thousands of years apparently to run dry. And so that's what's going on. But it will leave our DNA, and we will be sorry that we ever had, gained this knowledge of good and evil. And we will be good, obedient children of God of our own free will and accord, not because He's making us do anything. It's because we love Him and we love one another, and we seek to please and to please ourselves, please others, to please God, to be all pleasing all the way around. And we will find that sweet spot, okay, with God's help only. And so, that's coming, but it's critical that people understand why we have the suffering in this world, the necessary suffering. Now, that's as opposed to the unnecessary suffering that's artificial, been manufactured, created, invented for us. This is through the money masters, the satanic money masters, the top money lovers that love the power and control over the affairs of men that comes with the money, the satanic power. Now that is unnecessary human suffering, and that's what I object to so much. So first you understand the first type of, consternation that you might be feeling just about saying, well, there's this loving, all-powerful God you talk about, and he allows this kind of crap. I mean, bull. I'm an agnostic. I'm an atheist. And I can understand that. Can't, and I think God can understand that. So that's why you see my people perish. It is written for lack of understanding. But if you understood God, you would be His friend. You would say, God, I get it. You don't want this. You want us all to be living together in peace and harmony, safety, security, prosperity, freedom, and all that good stuff. Duh. You're logical, and reasonable, and that makes sense to me. That you're this creator God like my parents, and you want the best for your children. I'm your child, made in your image and likeness, so it all makes sense. So we got to know what His will for us. It's not hidden. It's not secret. It's not a mystery. Now look at the other kind of consternation that's caused by these people. Now it's easy where you can understand where you can blame the wrong sources and to paint everything with a broad brush in the same way. So you become like a political atheist. Yeah, I don't believe in politics, but you see, I talk about the politicians. I sure as hell don't want the job. Okay, but this isn't working. The way we've got these high politicians that are selling out to the money masters isn't working. And it's a serious problem because these are the people that are supposed to be representing we the people, because we the people are the only legitimate government in the Constitution. If it's not ruled by we the people, we've got dog crap, and we've got dog crap. That's all we've got. Up one side, down the other. We've got the money masters in collusion with these. They need to be held responsible. Either we've got to nullify this national debt immediately and reset our economic values, reset the currency and all this stuff. We need some dramatic changes. And it doesn't have to hurt anybody, but we need to understand it's only going to help people. If you raise the worth of the currency, it can't hurt anybody. I mean, this is what we need to dry up homelessness. This is going to help the least of men. Okay? And that's who we have to care about. That's like Jesus described. That's Him. When we neglect the concerns of the least of men, we neglect Jesus. And then you think that God is going to bless America? Okay, there's a wrath. There's a curse over this nation. We've got to face it. We're just a wannabe Christian nation at this point. Look how we're treating the least of men, the poor, the indigent. Okay, and they're dropping right and left. I mean, everybody else in the whole other 49 states, they seem to be behind the curve of California. This is where it's happening. This is where the push is being made to see how far we're the guinea pig state. We're a state where they're exploring their boundaries, what they can get away with, how far they could push the Overton window. I mean, they just passed this gun bill where you can only have so many bullets in your magazine, and now it's been found to be unconstitutional, basically. And the infringement. I mean, how do you describe infringement? I mean, it's just like chipping away. It's just, we'll just tweak it here and there. That's infringement. That's unconstitutional. Anytime they do that, any state. So the Constitution overrides any of the state laws. It's got to, and the law enforcement has to understand that. So it's all just a pseudo law. It's all phony. It's a facade. It's a fake out. Okay, it's just, and all it does is hurt the law-abiding people, and they're the ones that are most trustworthy to have firearms. So it doesn't make any sense. But this is the kind of thinking they're doing here in California. And you can't just paint us with a broad brush, because I'm a Californian, a native. I'm a second generation. My kids are third generation. My mom was first. And it's a beautiful state. Everybody in the world ought to be able to live in California. I'd love to welcome everybody. But we need to get our act together, and we're going the opposite direction still. I mean, people don't understand crony capitalism. You think you're trying to talk above their heads. Oh, I'm not going to bother looking up a term. But if you do, you see it's the antithesis of true capitalism. And you realize that you can't blame capitalism. That's besmirching the name of capitalism. It's wrong, because capitalism has to do with things that make sense. It has a definition to the term progress. Okay, capitalism, in order to have progress, you've got to see prosperity. You've got to see it working for everybody across the board. It doesn't leave anybody out. Just like Adam Smith talks about. A civilized society, economically speaking, can afford lots of idle hands. So if people want to have idle hands, which we all know are the devil's workshop, right? As we've been told. So, you don't want to sit around doing nothing, but it can afford that. These aren't the people that are at fault. If you've got a willing workforce, that's what you want to look at. Can we do anything in the infrastructure we can dream up? Yes, you've got that willing workforce. And then people say, well, it's about money. And you know what? I mean, They want to convolute everything. They want to make everything difficult. And so everybody's confused and discombobulated and overwhelmed with crap. But you don't have to. They're all liars, okay? People that want to manipulate stuff and make it confusing and convolute basic economic understanding, these are liars and deceivers, whether they're aware of it or not. Okay, so it's advertent or inadvertently. But people do evil. They're minions of the darkness, knowing and not knowing. But they're out there. And it's bad, man. It's overtaken this state that people think it's still okay to keep driving up your cost of living. No, we need a reduction in the cost of living. There was a little piece on the news where the farmers are whining a little bit about the price for their commodities going down. This is what needs to happen. We need stuff to go down in price. We need that makes the worth of your currency go up. This is the only hope we have to do stuff by our own means, because God is trying to. I mean, I hope I'm representing God properly and reflecting the truth properly. That's the best I could do, but I think it is. I think the information I'm giving, the education that I give is sound, and it'll check out with him. But we need to wean ourselves off the crap, off the stuff, off the junk, because it's like we're all hypos, here. It's like hooked on money. And it's like, good God, help us. We can't keep going in this direction. We got more and more people dying out on the streets. Right here locally in Chico, a woman just died recently. They didn't say, well, she was transient, she was homeless. I mean, no, not even any mention. Just woman, some died. She didn't have a home and, didn't mention her address, where she lived or anything. 40-something-year-old woman. Oh, that's it. She just died. I mean, yeah, it's been getting very hot, killing people. And this is what happens, folks. This is what happens in an ungodly society like we have, a wannabe Christian society. The stuff we keep accepting, this movement of the Overton window, and I'm just saying no. I'm just saying, just be ready to answer for your beliefs. Okay, you have the right to have any belief system you want, hold any mindset you want, any philosophy you could prescribe to or not prescribe to. But just remember this much, that you will, because I'm a watchman on the tower, and my job is to make sure your blood is not on my hands. And the way I do that is to warn you that there is a God that's not stupid, okay? And he will hold every one of us accountable for every reckless word, every careless word we've ever spoken. And where do those words we speak come from? The overflow of our heart. And so our belief systems are very powerful because people kill and die for the things they believe in. Their principles, everything's tied up in your belief system, your thought, what you believe. It's your reality that you've chosen. You say, this is it, this is right, that's wrong. So everything about you is tied up in your integrity and honor and these kind of things and what you believe. And people who kill and die for those things. So it's very serious, but we will stand one-on-one and we will answer for it, what we believe. And we've got to understand the money, the role that money plays in screwing up our reality and how we've got to get away from it. We've just got to move entirely away from money. We've got to, folks. We've got to. It's just getting worse. I mean, it's just like beating our heads against the wall. Let's try this and try that and just tweak it here, tweak it there. We've got to get away from the stuff. And the only way I know of how to do it is to increase the worth. Okay, it's got to start somewhere. This ball got rolling by manipulating the housing prices upward. Okay, and that's what caused the chain reaction, inflation, the cost of services. Remember, everything, everybody. Of course, the cost for workers has to go up. They're trying to they're trying to survive. Remember, they got to pay a cost to survive. That tax, the cost of living. So it's a no-brainer to suggest that yes, the workers need more money just to survive. So you see, everything goes up. So it sets this thing in motion, right? And so our currency has been debased well over 90% since the inception of the Federal Reserve note. How far will this go? Okay. And it scares me. Yes, I've got a sense of consternation. I'm upset. I've got children, and they may have children. And it's just for your children, for everybody. I'm not going to, the generation's not going to hold me as responsible. I didn't do this. It's been bugging the crap out of me my whole life, as long as I've had basic understanding of these things. Okay, I hate social, political, economic injustice. Okay, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a conservative. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a socialist. I'm not a capitalist. But yet I am all those things. Okay, I am you. You are me. We are we. We are a collective society. And the trick is to learn how to get along in peace and harmony, safety, security, contentment, freedom for everybody. not excluding anybody. That's what we need to be working for. If you want to work against the devil, work against Satan, work against evil, okay, then this is what you've got to understand, what you're working against. How are we going to reach this point, this plateau of peace, where we all feel 100%, where we don't have any wrath on us, any consternation toward our fellow man. We don't resent or covet anything anybody has, because we all have equal access and we're born unthinkably wealthy, all of us. Why? Because God said so, not because our Constitution says so, or I say so, or you say so, or we all say so. No, because that's the way God wants us to live. Okay, that's the reality God wants us